we didn't need new marketing ideas. We needed someone to actually go execute the marketing and follow through on it, to write the emails, to do the campaigns, to create the pages, to go and queue up the campaigns in the marketing software, to put the tracking in place, to report the tracking. I don't like that stuff at all. So when we look at it, guys, I delegated my genius. I hired someone who's going to come in and do marketing strategy for us when all that we needed was really someone to come in and do the execution of the marketing, not the strategy. What is up, everybody? Guys, this is kind of a special Trevor Truck Talk. This is one of my late night truck talks, my drives back from the airport. And sometimes those are the ones I have the most inspiration on, because I just got off of a flight, had full focus time, no technology, no distractions. That's when I really let my mind kind of go. That's when I let my mind wander and get creative and really dive into purpose and passion. So I love being able to hop on airplanes with that kind of solitude and be able to think. And this trip, guys, I was down in Phoenix, Arizona for our company retreat. Every year we do an in-person company retreat. We fly everybody from the whole Carrot team in. And this time it was about 50 some odd of our team members came into Phoenix, Arizona for the week. And then today I had a chance on my way out, to go visit some of my friends and also some amazing people in this industry. I stopped off and hung out with Brent Daniels with TTP and now Wholesaling Inc. for a few. And we talked business and life and just shared some cool convos. And then I went over to my friend Pace Morby's mastermind. So Pace invited me over there. I only had probably an hour or two before my flight. And I stopped in, and I'm going to tell you about kind of an insight that I have after that mastermind, because he gave me a chance to talk in front of his mastermind audience, which I was not prepared for. I didn't show up there having a talk ready, but he's like, dude, you're here. Do you have something you want to talk about? I'm like, heck, let's do it. And so what I'm going to be talking about in this episode, guys, is don't delegate your genius, okay? And delegating your genius can be something that we all could fall into that trap, okay? We start to learn how to delegate. We hear from people, hey, take all these things, do the 4-hour work week thing, right? Whittle your whole schedule down to these 2, 3, 4 hours a week or 4 hours a day, and delegate everything that you can. Now, I've done that. I've delegated so much of my job over the years in different phases that I found some things that work and I found some things that don't. But one of the things I would advise against everybody to do is to delegate your genius. Now, let's kind of break it down first. What does genius mean? I've done episodes on the podcast before where I talk about your genius zone or your unique ability. And your unique ability are the things that you are amazingly good at. You could be world class at them, but you get more energy when you're done doing those things than when you started. Okay, you get more energy when you're done doing these things than when you started, and you could be world class at it if you really stepped into it. And for me, I had a tough time kind of finding my unique abilities in my genius zone. I thought they were one thing for a few years. I thought it was, my marketing ability, right? I became really, really good at marketing, but I became good at marketing all because I put in the reps, because I studied the crap out of marketing. I read every book I could on human psychology, on marketing, all the old books, Breakthrough Advertising by the oldies. It's every single old marketing book I could read, every single new marketing book I could read. I took all the courses and I built an amazing skill set. Now, I took that skill set and started to implement it in my businesses before Carrot, and I was pretty good at it. We made some good income, but it started to really drag me down. And I found myself not wanting to do the work in the business that I had created. And the funny thing is, because I love marketing. And so I was sitting there just thinking, shoot, why is it that I am not liking my work right now? Why is it that even though I get to do marketing for most of my work week, why is it that my energy is gone? Why is it that it's drained? And so what I started to do is started to delegate all of that away. Okay, we hired a marketing consultant, amazing marketer, but we hired a marketing consultant. He was one of the Dan Kennedy consultants. Dan Kennedy is one of the top, direct response marketers in the world. And this marketer was great, but he never worked. It just really didn't work for us. The results didn't hit. The ideas were not coming out. The ideas weren't popping, y'all. Like, they weren't hitting the market. and it wasn't something that was compelling that people were paying attention to. So we dropped about $25,000 over 5 months. And we look back and go, what happened? We were supposed to hire these people who were these amazing marketers. What the heck happened? Well, the first time that I learned about not delegating your genius was that moment, because I'm a guy who studied the heck out of marketing and I absolutely love it. And I looked back and I said, why was it that I thought that I needed to hire a marketing expert to do this work when I love marketing? And I started to dive in and go, well, if I love marketing so much, why was it draining my energy? And what I actually discovered, y'all, is I love the marketing strategy. I love coming up with ideas. I love coming up with the strategy to go after a market. I love coming up with, the big hooks, the big ideas are going to really crack through a marketing campaign. But what I hate is the execution of the marketing. Okay, once an idea or a strategy is locked in place, I don't want to go and then take it and execute it. I don't want to put it into a project management software. I don't want to have a bunch of due dates. I don't want to have to write all of the copy, but I'll write some of it. And I just really don't want to do all that stuff. And so at that time, I had a tough time with it because I'm like, well, if you're a marketer, you can't just come up with ideas and not do anything about them, right? You can't earn revenue if you're not actually getting your marketing campaigns out to the world. And so for the next probably 2-3 years, I continued to push into this thing that was going against my grain and that was draining my energy. And I discovered, after kind of retrospect, looking back, and I'm going, oh my gosh, the reason it didn't work with that marketing person is because I had ideas. I thought would be amazing, but I didn't want to step on that marketing person's toes because we were paying them $5,000 a month to do this. And they were bringing their best ideas, but there wasn't clarity on exactly what we actually needed. We didn't need new marketing ideas. We needed someone to actually go execute the marketing and follow through on it, to write the emails, to do the campaigns, to create the pages, to go and queue up the campaigns in the marketing software, to put the tracking in place, to report the tracking. I don't like that stuff at all. So when we look at it, guys, I delegated my genius. I hired someone who's going to come in and do marketing strategy for us when all that we needed was really someone to come in and do the execution of the marketing, not the strategy. And so let me kind of fast forward to this last few years too. And I want to see if this relates to you guys at all. Because as you're going down your journey of building your business, one of the things that I'm going to be guiding you guys on all the time is you've got to audit your calendar, right? You do an energy audit, carrot.com/energy. You audit things first. And then you discover which things you want to get off your lap that are draining you energy. Create a process out of those. And I go through the whole entire process on my energy audit. Just go to carrot.com/energy. Completely changed my life, and it has for thousands of others as well, y'all. Okay? So you circle the things that are draining your energy the most. You create processes on them, and then you delegate them. Now, here is the mistake I made, is I didn't know how to differentiate between the nuances of those things that drained my energy and the parts of those that actually gave me energy. Like, I love marketing strategy, but I don't like marketing execution. And so it kind of happened again this past year and a half inadvertently. And as you grow your business, you start to kind of elevate up from delegating tasks and creating processes around tasks to then you start to create processes around thinking, right? You start to create processes around how to think and how to make decisions at a company versus just tasks. You start to document strategy and then have a team or leaders then create the plans for those strategies. Now, here's what happened for me again, guys. I went and did the same mistake, but at a different level of delegation. I found myself, and you guys heard me on the podcast this past year, I found myself kind of in some spots where, man, I wasn't getting a lot of energy for that month or that quarter. And it wasn't because we weren't doing cool things in the business. But again, I started to delegate some of the things that are my unique genius. I started to delegate away my genius. And I'll give some examples. Some of it was purposeful. Some of it was not purposeful. Okay. So I love product. I love product strategy. I love talking with customers. And I want to kind of relate this to the investor or agent side of things. So you may love talking with clients. You may love negotiating. You may love the actual driving and checking out the houses. You may love actually swinging the hammers out the houses, but you hate everything else. You may love certain things about your business, right? Well, when we're growing the business, sometimes we get so busy. We go, okay, I need to really buckle down. I need to hire this person. I need to create some processes. And your first instinct is then to figure out what you need to delegate oftentimes. And for me, I started to delegate some content creation. The other part of the Carrot Cast, actually, Brady does an amazing job on the Carrot Cast interviews. I do the Trevor Truck Talks, and I delegated that out, even though that's one of those things that gives me energy. It's one of my areas of genius, right? And one of the reasons we started the podcast is because I absolutely love conversations with amazing, smart entrepreneurs. It fires me up. I learn from them, and it's just something that really gives me joy. And so after probably about 6 or 7 months, I started to kind of feel this empty spot. I'm going, man, I really, really, really love that. And so what part of it did I not love that made it so it was something I even considered delegating? Well, I think the part of it that I didn't love is I wasn't really diving in and putting as much attention anymore into the strategy of the journey I wanted to take you guys and gals on with the podcast. Okay, Brady does an amazing job at that, and he has an amazing knack for content strategy. And I really started to delegate more and more of that. He's very, very capable of it. He's done an amazing job, but that's a thing that I love. And so one of those things I started to think about as we're heading into this year, I go, okay, how do I add some of that back into my life this year? How do I add having amazing conversations with entrepreneurs and book authors and those people that I really look up to? How do I add some of that back into my life? What does it look like, right? Is it a different podcast? Is it the same one, but now Brady and I are sharing that strategy. Now I've been able to buy back some other parts of my time in my job that gives me more time for the things of my unique genius. Like I said, is it something completely different? So it may actually manifest, y'all, in a completely different podcast. We may do the podcast that's the one that is really about the holistic approach of the entrepreneur, the entrepreneur freedom formula, right? And that's a framework I created years and years ago that I've been perfecting and been teaching at Carrot Camps and really diving in with some of my private coaching students as the entrepreneur freedom formula. And so who knows, maybe that's where the next podcast is going to come, so I can really bake back in that part of my unique genius, but in a different way, right? And then Brady and the team can continue to step into really crushing it with the Carrot Cast. We'll kind of bounce some ideas around and we'll see. But let's kind of look at some other ways that I delegated away my unique genius in some areas, and actually led to me having less joy, less momentum, less energy. And I adopted some things that drained my energy for a short period of time. Okay. So a couple other things on the product side, like I mentioned earlier, I love working with you guys and gals, rolling up my sleeves, working with you guys on your websites, finding some ways that we can innovate the product, make things better, make things faster, make things convert better, come up with fresh ideas. And once I hired a director for that, I kind of thought, well, shoot, part of their job is to really go out there and discover those things. And so once we crossed over the 8-figure mark and I got sucked back into the business and I became that bottleneck on the strategic side, and I was working on creating the strategies and hiring those team members and really buying back my time, I pretty much delegated away product strategy. And it took probably about a year for me to discover, oh my gosh, I delegated away product strategy, which I love, which, arguably I'm pretty damn good at. It's what got us where we are in this company. And I have some amazing fresh ideas, but I let those decisions go to other roles in the company. Now they're capable, but it's not their unique genius. Their unique genius is taking a strategy that already exists and making it happen. And I was actually putting them in a harder position. And so that's one thing that I discovered with delegating your genius is you actually put the other person in a harder position as well. Because if that's your genius and you're amazing at doing that thing in your business, you're amazing at negotiating deals, you're amazing at writing email copy, you're amazing at renovations or the design of the renovations, you're amazing at marketing, whatever it is. If you love it, it gives you energy and you're amazing at it, and you delegate that off, or the parts of it that you're the best off. For me, what I found is you kind of end up micromanaging or completely abdicating, and neither one of those are good. Abdicating means, well, I want to make sure I'm not stepping on their toes. I want to make sure that I'm giving them, empowerment and freedom to go do this work. So I'm going to step away, right? And I'm going to let them do the work, and I'm not going to meddle in it. And they're going to go crush it. And what happens is if they don't have that unique genius for that same thing that really adds that magic to the mix, like on the product side, they don't know the market as well as I do. They don't know you as well as I do. They don't know the entrepreneur as well as I do, and the pain and the frustrations and the fear and also the desires that you have. that really lead into some of those things. And so some of that magic gets lost, even though their skill set and intent is amazing, right? And so if we start to delegate some of that away, you're putting them at a disadvantage, because in one case, I abdicated. I just let them go do what they were going to do. And we kind of failed in a bunch of aspects. We really didn't innovate in some key areas, and we really didn't drive things as forward as well. And I kind of let them fail. That's not a good leadership move on my part. The other side of it is micromanagement, right? Where this is what happened with the marketing guy about a decade ago. Is they would bring ideas. I'm like, those aren't the greatest ideas. So I would kind of chip in. And we had these weird Frankenstein ideas that weren't their best or my best. And sometimes we would go with their ideas. I'd abdicate it. Sometimes we'd go with mine. And it ended up being just this disjointed marketing strategy that did not work. And I was micromanaging. I've done that in other things as well. Whenever I've delegated my genius, is I keep on. I say it's delegated away and you're empowered to go do this, but then you kind of keep a pretty tight eye on it. And if something happens where you see it kind of going astray, you dive in there and you kind of coach or give suggestions, and that's great. But it really takes that ability for that team member to really own it away. And so the reason I'm bringing this up today is, as I walked into that room at Pace Morby's mastermind, and he asked me, he's like, dude, do you want to speak? I'm like, thought about it for half a second. I said, heck yeah. And then in that moment, I'm going, what am I going to talk about? He's literally putting me up on the stage in less than 10 minutes from the time I walked in that door. And I didn't have anything I was going to talk about. And so I go, okay, let's go back into my well of stories. Let's go back into my well of experiences. Let me just teach. Let me give. Let me inspire. Let me give people frameworks that they can go execute in their business. All of those things I love. All of those things are in my genius zone. I love taking complicated concepts and making frameworks out of them, like my entrepreneur freedom formula, like the energy audit. I like so many other ones I use inside of the company, like my delegation matrix, and so many other things that you've probably learned at the Carrot Camps if you've had a chance to come. If you haven't, I'd love to see it one in the future. Okay. Speaking and inspiring. I love being able to tell stories that help people connect to their own story. To help people go, oh my gosh, that's where I'm at right now in my life or my business. And if Trevor made it through that, man, I think I can make it too, right? I love being able to do that, because I had people that fed into me in my life early on in my entrepreneur journey, and I still do, who inspire me, who talk about the challenges that I'm relating to right now. And I can go, oh my gosh, I can see my own journey in you. And I can see a path through that. That stuff, I love that stuff. I love teaching. I love educating. I love networking, connecting. I love those things. And so I'm going to take this note myself as I'm driving down south to Roseburg to home. And I'm going to head into the house. And my family's going to be asleep probably. But man, I just can't wait to see them in the morning. I'm going to head in and really take this note and say, all right, let's make sure to not delegate that genius anymore. Because that genius is what the world needs. That genius is what your business needs. If you love negotiating and you love talking with sellers, then your sellers need you. And you need to build the business around you. And then if you have so much volume that you can't do all the negotiation, and you've you've delegated every other part of the business, and all you do is negotiation, then bring an apprentice in and train them and teach them. And you can still take on negotiating the best deals and have someone else come in alongside you. But delegate everything else outside of your genius that you possibly can. Okay. When I was talking to people at Pace's Mastermind on some of the things that are outside of their genius zone, I heard things like accounting and a whole bunch of other things, right? Accounting, running my numbers and doing all kinds of things. So whatever it is for you guys, write that down, put it on your wall, circle it and say, this is my genius zone. These are the things that give me energy. These are things I'm amazing at. And these are the things I'm never going to delegate until I don't love them anymore, and delegate every other thing on your list except for that, because that's where you're going to fall into that trap, guys. When you delegate your genius, you start to micromanage those you delegate it to, or you abdicate. Neither one are good, and your business doesn't do as well, and you start to lose your energy. All right, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you are new to the Carrot Cast, let's say maybe you actually came from Pace's Mastermind. This is one of the first episodes you've listened to. Well, guys, every single Thursday, I record something when I'm driving to or from my office, or in this case, from the airport just on my own entrepreneurial journey. And I tie them back to every phase of business. If you're trying to get your first deal done, I talk to you on these as well. If you're trying to go from 500,000 to $1 million, I've got tons of episodes on that phase. If you're trying to go from your first deal to getting your first 10 or getting consistency, I've got tons of episodes of these Trevor Truck Talks on mindset, on tactical things, on how to think about life, how to think about business, the whole thing. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Go check out the other episodes. And if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it's new on Spotify, y'all. I just saw that you can leave ratings and reviews on Spotify. So I'd encourage you to go to Spotify if you're listening on Spotify and give a rating and review of this podcast. I'd love to hear what you think. What do you get out of the Truck Talks? What would you love to hear from other future Truck Talks, and how has this changed your perspective, or maybe even changed your life, y'all? Okay, that's my hope, is at least one person listening to this every single day listens to something that changes your perspective, where you completely approach life or your business differently, and it changes your family tree potentially. One little decision you can make today can completely change your family tree for generations. All right, guys, I love you. Guys, give a rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That's the way we get more and more people to hear about this podcast, and we can spread a word, be that beacon of positivity and possibility to the world. Guys, think about your unique genius and don't delegate it. Delegate everything else. All right, have an amazing rest of the week. Love you.